Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to YouTube channel of CS Ansar. You all must have read in the media that on 11th of August 2020, a landmark decision has been passed by Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Vinita Sharma versus Rakesh Sharma, ruling that daughters have equal co-partnership rights in the Hindu undivided family property even if the father died before the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005 came into force. To understand the larger implications of this ruling, we are privileged to have with us today the very eloquent Advocate Rekha Agarwal. Ma'am has been practicing for last 34 years in Supreme Court and High Court and can be frequently seen on news channel sharing her views on burning issues. A very warm welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you, CS Ansar.
Please share your perspectives on the ruling.
Neha, to begin with, I must say that this is a very, very big leap forward where women's rights are concerned. It is indeed a golden day for the women of our country because despite the fact that in 2005, the Hindu Succession Act was amended as far as Section 6 of the Hindu Succession Act is concerned, and up till now, since the law was Hindu Succession Act was made in the year 1956, up till now, only sons, that is, the boys, were given the rights of being co-partners in the Hindu undivided family. And women, that is, the daughters, were kept out of Section 6. And it was presumed that once that only boys will get a right in the Hindu undivided family, which is, or rather, the ancestral family, ancestral property of their family. In the year 2005, there was again a very big amendment as far as women's rights are concerned. But a problem that was created in the year 2005 was that an ambiguity remained in the minds of the common man as to whether the girls who were born before 2005, that is, and in fact the date was 9/9/2005, whether the daughters who were born before 9/9/2005, they would get the benefit of the amendment, whether the amendment would have retrospective effect or prospective effect. The second question, that the problem that had arisen was post 2005, that whether the father had to be alive after 2005, and it is only then that the daughters would get the benefit of the amendment of the 2005. So supposing a father had died post 2005, then the daughters were denied the right on the ground that no, the father is not alive, and therefore you will not get the benefit of the 2005 amendment. Or if the daughter was born after 2005, only then she will get the benefit, and she will not get the benefit if she's not born before 2005, so on and so forth. So there were various obstacles in the path of women claiming their right in the ancestral property, the property which has been left behind by their fathers. And so on one ground or other, women had to face a big obstacle. The daughters of a country faced a big problem, and especially the married daughters. Once they were married off, they were supposed to be what we call paraya dhan. You're a married daughter, you've gone away to your in-laws house, so you have forsaken all your rights in your father's property. By this judgment, which has been passed yesterday by the Honorable Supreme Court, it is a judgment passed by three judges. A three judges bench has passed this judgment, and they have made this absolutely clarified the law or the Succession Act amendment of 2005 by stating that henceforth uh, no distinguishing factor will remain, no obstacle will remain in the path of daughters claiming their right. It does not matter whether she was born before 9/9/2005 or after 2005, whether her father was alive as on 9/9/2005, or whether he had passed away subsequently. Nothing will come in the path of the daughters claiming their rights in the ancestral property. The very fact that a daughter has been born, now it has become a birthright of daughters once they are born to claim their rights in their ancestral property. So as in the case of boys, we say it is a janm siddha adhikar. So now in the case of daughters also, it has become a janma siddha adhikar to claim the right in the ancestral property.
Ma'am, in the judgment that you have mentioned, is it applicable for all women, irrespective of the caste, creed, married or unmarried?
Neha, this is as far as all Hindus are concerned. So this judgment is applicable where the question is concerning property of HUF. So the people of other religion, for example, if we talk of Mohammedans, they are governed by their own personal law. So this judgment will not be applicable to those people of a country who are governed by their own personal law. For example, we talk about customary laws, women who are residing in the villages, who are not governed by the Hindu law for centuries. Their families are governed by what are called the local laws or customary laws, or people of any religion who have their personal laws. So this judgment, which has been passed yesterday, will be applicable to all those people who consider themselves as Hindus and who are being governed by the Hindus law in terms of property distribution, in terms of inheritance, in terms of marriage. And as far as age is concerned, any woman, as I said earlier, the moment a daughter is born, she gets a right in her parents' property. In fact, if I may go one step backwards again, whenever we talk of sons, it is said that a son gets the right in his father's property the moment the child is conceived. So the moment the son is conceived in the womb of his mother, he gets a right in in the ancestral property of his father and grandfather. Similarly, now with the judgment that has been passed yesterday, even a female child, any girl child who has been conceived, who is in the womb, her right to claim her right in the ancestral property or ask for partition from her brothers is now established, which means that a girl child of any age, whether she is married, whether she's unmarried, whether she decides to remain a spinster, or she gets married, or she becomes widowed or divorced, or come what may, the right will remain. And even if she dies, after that also, supposing a girl dies, she's a married daughter and she passes away, after that, even her children can ask for the right of their mother in their grandfather's property. So this is a right which is now established the moment you are born, and this right cannot be denied at any cost to any girl who seeks to claim partition in the ancestral property left behind by her father.
So, ma'am, in the case women is married and she is part of a HUF because she's married from the husband side. So, can she still make her claim on the father's HUF property?
Yes, definitely. Neha, let me clarify over here that when we talk of a married woman does not have any right to claim a share in her husband's property. She only has a right of being maintained, what we call food, clothing, and shelter. It is only after her husband dies that she inherits the property which has been left behind by her husband. So, therefore, as I said, a married daughter, a married woman, a wife, in any case, she has got no right. So even if an HUF has been created by her for as far as her children are concerned, or if her husband establishes an HUF, she becomes a part of that HUF. It does not mean or does not debar her from claiming her share in her parental property. What her husband does, or whether he creates an HUF or whether he does not create an HUF, that is a separate business altogether. And as far as claiming her right in her father's property is concerned, that is a separate thing. So let us not mix the two issues. She's her even after she gets married, her right in her parental property continues to remain.
Right, ma'am. Could you elaborate a little more? Is the judgment only applicable to Hindus or to other religions as well?
Neha, this is applicable to people of all religion. But as I said, that when we're talking of HUF, Hindu undivided family, so definitely it is as the name itself suggests HUF. So whenever there's an HUF, which has been created, it will be applicable to Hindus only. But people of other religions, for example, Sikh people are there, or there are people like Parsis or Mohammedans. These people are governed by their personal law. So Parsis have their own personal law, Mohammedans have their own personal law, and people who are having their customary law, or people who are Adivasis or tribal people, they will not be governed by this law. But anybody who is a Hindu, who for generations altogether have been following the Hindu law of inheritance, Hindu law of succession, Hindu law regarding marriage, adoption, maintenance, etc., etc. So all these people will be governed, and they can get all these women are governed by this law, and they can take the advantage of this judgment which has been passed yesterday.
Right, ma'am. So the judgment has been passed. We have seen it, heard it from you. So what's the way forward? How can one make practical use of this judgment?
Neha, that's a very interesting question you asked. Of course, as they say that, these are golden words which have been written yesterday, which have been penned by the Honorable Supreme Court, but that is all only on paper. And the media has been good enough to publicize it, with the print media, the electronic media, and there's going to be a big hullabaloo about it. And, channels like YouTube, and YouTube also, there'll be some, show regarding this judgment which has been passed. But what is the worth of this judgment if it is not put to practical use? uh, as I say, these are only empty words. They will be of no use to woman until she gets her right. So the practical way is that either, whenever the girl asks for a partition or share in her father's property, if the brothers, brothers and sisters are good enough to have a family settlement and honorably give the share of the daughter to her, that will of course be the best thing forward. But however, if nobody is willing to divide the estate of the father that he has left behind, the movable and immovable property, and tries to debar the girl from the daughter from getting her share, the only legal remedy that such a woman has is to file a civil suit for partition in the court concerned. So wherever the property is situated, even one, supposing there is a house which is situated in any part of Delhi, for example, if it is situated in South Delhi, then she can file a case in the Saket court and ask for partition of that property. If that property is worth more than 2 crores, then the case can be filed in the Honorable High Court, depending upon the value of the property. So the only legal remedy that a woman has is that in case her brothers and sisters are not willing to partition the property, she has to file a civil suit for partition by metes and bounds, claiming that I am an equal co-sharer in the estate of the father, of the deceased father, and that right should be given to her.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing not just a theoretical view, but also a practical view on the judgment. I'm sure it will be of immense benefit to whichever women or lady or daughter is going to view this. Also, a big round of thanks to ma'am for being with us on such a short notice and sharing her views on the landmark ruling.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to CS Ansar for inviting me for this show.
It is certainly a progressive step on women's right and settles the ambiguity surrounding the nature and extent of a daughter's right to inherit the property. Thank you for watching this video. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel CS Ansar for more such knowledge sharing videos. Thank you.